A few days ago, NASA's solar observatories picked up something they couldn't explain. In the deep silence beyond Mars, a faint pulse began to echo through the electromagnetic spectrum, measured, deliberate, impossible. The source, an interstellar visitor known as 3I, Atlas. At first, scientists thought it was just another comet, an icy fragment from the distant void, carried on gravity's timeless tide. But within hours, the data began to change. Its orbit shifted on its own. The numbers refused to obey the laws we thought governed motion. It was as if the object had decided to correct its own path. At the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, researchers stared at the telemetry in disbelief. Orbital models that had held steady for days suddenly diverged. The curve bent not from the pressure of solar wind or gravitational drag, but from something internal, something that pulsed in quiet rhythm every 47 seconds. At first, they called it a measurement error. Then, they noticed its mass had increased by nearly 30% as it neared the Sunday. That shouldn't be possible. Matter doesn't just appear. And yet, 3I Atlas was growing heavier. The pulse continued, a repeating beat, faint but consistent, rising through the noise of cosmic radiation. Its pattern fell neatly within the same radio frequency band that humans use for deep space communication. Coincidence perhaps, but the kind that makes even the most rational minds hesitate. Somewhere between those invisible frequencies, a message seemed to flicker. When NASA's data leaked through secondary observatories in Chile and South Africa, the scientific community erupted. Forums filled with speculation, plasma instability, radiation resonance, magnetic refraction, dozens of theories appeared overnight. But none of them explained why the signal seemed structured. Not random, not natural, but rhythmic like a whisper across the interstellar dark. That was when Michio Kaku appeared on the live broadcast. Calm, deliberate, his voice carried the gravity of a man who has spent a lifetime interpreting the universe's riddles. If this data is correct, he said, we may be witnessing something that redefines what we call physics. The room fell silent. The air itself seemed to pause, as though the cosmos were listening. He pointed at the waveform projected behind him. The pulse had symmetry, rise and decay mirrored with near-perfect precision. Nature, he continued softly, rarely paints with such order. This may not be a random phenomenon. It may be a signature. His words didn't shout, they resonated. Every syllable carried the weight of possibility, of fear, of wonder. Outside, the night sky seemed different. Amateur astronomers began reporting fluctuations in brightness from the region near the sun's glare, where the object passed. The glow of 3I Atlas brightened beyond all predictions, as though it were reflecting more sunlight than its surface could possibly allow. Some compared it to a mirror. Others said it shimmered like metal. In the vacuum of space, it pulsed silent yet deafening in implication. NASA, curiously, stopped releasing live updates. Their data streams went quiet. Official statements turned vague. What had been a transparent observation became a void of silence. Technical maintenance, they said. Calibration delays. But within the scientific community, the unspoken truth was spreading. Something had unnerved them. Michio Kaku, in a later interview, leaned forward and asked the question that hung above them all. What if 3I Atlas isn't simply visiting us? What if it's responding to us? The interviewer laughed nervously, but Kaku didn't. His eyes held that still intensity, the look of someone staring not into mystery, but into reflection. If the pulse matches our own communication bands, he continued, then it means one of two things. Either nature has replicated our frequencies by pure chance, or we are hearing an echo. The idea lingered like static in the air, an echo, not transmitted, but mirrored, as though the object were replaying what it heard. The possibility was both thrilling and terrifying. What would an interstellar mirror sound like if it listened to us? Would it reflect our curiosity or our noise? Across observatories, the analysis deepened. Data from Harvard's Astrophysics Division confirmed fluctuations in the object's brightness corresponding with the pulse intervals. In plain terms, 3I Atlas wasn't just emitting radio energy, it was modulating light, as though communicating in two languages at once, one for our instruments and another for our eyes. The pulse repeated again, every 47 seconds. It never deviated. Some physicists described it as the universe breathing inhale, exhale, inhale again. Others refused to entertain that metaphor. It's plasma dynamics, they said, though none could show the math. The truth was simpler and stranger, they didn't know. In a conference held behind closed doors, NASA, ESA, and Harvard's astrophysics lab exchanged encrypted data files. Outside, rumors swirled. Some claimed the pulse synchronized with fluctuations in the sun's corona. Others swore it interfered with radio telescopes half a world apart. The evidence was messy, fragmented, yet all of it pointed toward the same unnerving direction. Something about 3I Atlas was aware. By the end of the week, Michio Kaku released a statement that sent ripples through both science and philosophy. The universe, he said, has a way of testing our definitions. We call a thing natural until it behaves otherwise. Then, we are forced to rewrite the vocabulary of existence. His tone wasn't fearful, it was reverent. The kind of reverence one reserves for an ancient text newly discovered. And then came the questions, the ones that no data could answer. Why did its mass grow as it neared the sun? Why did its radio pattern mimic the frequencies we use to communicate across space? And most haunting of all, why did NASA go silent the moment those signals peaked? Those questions hang still, suspended between wonder and dread. Some say we are overreacting, that this is another cosmic coincidence magnified by imagination. But for those who listen closely, the silence feels deliberate, like a pause before revelation. Perhaps, Michio Kaku mused, 3I Atlas isn't just an object, it's a reminder. A subtle tap on the shoulder from the cosmos, whispering that our understanding of reality remains painfully young. That somewhere out there, beyond the reach of our instruments, the universe is still speaking in languages we have yet to decipher. And maybe this pulse, this quiet rhythmic beat echoing across billions of miles, isn't a warning at all. Maybe it's an invitation, a sign that even now, in the age of supercomputers and satellites, the universe still holds truths our species is not yet ready to face. The signal continues, every 47 seconds without fail, and somewhere, in the dark between stars, something listens back. NASA eventually released a brief report, carefully worded, meticulously edited, yet strangely hollow. It acknowledged the signal. It confirmed the periodic pulse, but it framed the entire anomaly as an unexpected artifact of solar radiation. For anyone who read between the lines, it was less an explanation than a retreat. In the corridors of JPL, whispers spread. Not all of the data had been made public. A portion, perhaps the most crucial, had been locked away. Michio Kaku sat in his Manhattan office. The lights dimmed, a holographic projection of the 3I Atlas waveform hovering before him. He had seen countless cosmic mysteries in his career, yet this was different. The pattern wasn't just symmetrical, it was adaptive. Each pulse subtly evolved, as if learning, responding to the noise around it. If this is a natural object, he murmured, then nature just learned how to listen. His colleagues exchanged uncertain glances. The next morning, Harvard's astrophysics lab released corroborating data. The core temperature of 3I Atlas fluctuated not randomly, but rhythmically rising and falling like a living pulse. No known comet, asteroid, or interstellar fragment behaves this way. Comets vent gas, asteroids remain cold, but this seemed to regulate its own internal heat. Some researchers speculated about trapped chemical reactions. Others quietly suggested something far more radical, self-regulation. The idea that this object might be controlling its own thermal balance. Images from the European Space Agency's Mars Express revealed another oddity. The object's luminosity increased sharply when the sun's magnetic field intensified. Instead of being destabilized, it seemed to thrive under solar stress, like a creature absorbing energy rather than resisting it. To Kaku, that was the most unsettling clue of all. Energy isn't just power, he said. It's information, and something out there seems to be using it. The global conversation shifted. On social media, speculation ran: wild alien probe, rogue satellite, cosmic artifact. Most scientists tried to calm the noise, but privately, many were equally perplexed. Then came the new data from the Perseverance rover. During a 9-minute exposure sequence on the Martian night, its camera captured a diagonal streak slicing across the star trails, a flash that moved too fast to be a satellite, too linear to be a cosmic ray. The trajectory matched the predicted path of 3I, Atlas, almost perfectly. Within days, the image spread across the world. For a moment, humanity was united not by fear, but by fascination. It was as if we were all staring at the same celestial question mark. If 3I Atlas was natural, it was nature writing in a language we hadn't yet learned to read. If it wasn't, then we were not the only authors in this cosmic script. Michio Kaku offered a measured reflection during a rare televised address. When we discovered fire, we learned to transform our environment. When we learned to split the atom, we learned to transform matter. But if what we are observing here is true, if this object is manipulating gravity, then we are witnessing a civilization that has learned to transform the fabric of reality itself. His voice trembled not from fear, but from awe. A technology that can shape gravity, he continued, does not travel through space. It bends it. It chooses the shortest distance between two moments, not 2 points. The studio fell silent. The implications hung heavy. Somewhere in that silence, an idea took root, maybe 3. Atlas didn't come to us by chance. Maybe it appeared precisely because we had reached the threshold of noticing. Scientists around the globe debated 3 major hypotheses. The first, 3I, Atlas, is a fragment from another galaxy hurled across the void by gravitational tides billions of years ago. The second, it is a natural body, but one composed of exotic materials never before encountered its unusual behavior, the product of unknown physics. And the third, the one whispered only in private circles, the one that made even Michio Kaku uneasy. It might be artificial. In that version of the story, 3I Atlas isn't a rock or a comet at all. It's a construct, a machine so ancient that it carries the dust of forgotten suns across its hull. A relic of intelligence that may have existed long before our species learned to stand upright. Harvard's latest spectroscopic data added new fuel to the fire. They detected carbon molecules arranged in non-random patterns, their ratios suggesting deliberate synthesis. Natural processes produce chaos. This showed order. More astonishingly, the object's reflectivity was almost too uniform, as though its surface were polished at the molecular level. A mirror adrift in space, waiting for light to find it. And then came the observation that froze even the skeptics. The object's minute trajectory corrections, all recorded over several weeks, seemed to occur precisely when Earth's telescopes had the clearest line of sight. The odds of that being random were infinitesimal. It's like it wants to be seen, Kaku said quietly. As if it's saying, look closer. If this were science fiction, the audience would expect a dramatic revelation, a transmission decoded, a signal understood. But reality moves more slowly, more ambiguously. The beauty and terror of true discovery lie not in what we know, but in how it forces us to confront the limits of our knowing. Late one night, Michio Kaku gave an interview that would later circulate across millions of screens. There's a possibility, he said, that 3I, Atlas, is not just passing through. It might be studying us. Think about it, our planet has been broadcasting radio signals for over a century. If someone out there was listening, they would know we exist. And now, perhaps, they're answering. He paused, looking off camera. We've spent generations searching for life beyond Earth, never once asking if life might already be searching for us. The pulse persisted. 47 seconds, every cycle identical. Scientists grew exhausted chasing explanations. Some said it was solar interference, others swore it was deliberate modulation. Yet in the quiet moments when the data streamed across their screens in perfect rhythm, something inside them stirred something primal. The sense that, for the first time, humanity was being looked at. And then, as quickly as it had begun, the pulse changed. Its frequency shifted slightly, almost imperceptibly, but enough to register on instruments around the globe. A fraction of a second faster. A heartbeat accelerating. For Kaku, that alteration meant one thing: awareness. If it's responding, he said, then it knows we're watching. What if, he asked, this isn't an accident? What if 3I Atlas has been waiting for a civilization capable of noticing it? And what if that civilization is us? The question spread like a quiet contagion across every observatory and university. Not fear, not yet, but wonder, tinged with unease. For the first time, our species felt the gaze of something older, perhaps wiser, and infinitely more patient. So what if 3I Atlas isn't just a traveler from the void? What if it's a response, a message, answering one we've been unknowingly transmitting for centuries? What if it's the universe whispering back, "We hear you"? And what happens, Michio Kaku wondered, when humanity finally realizes that the sky has been watching us all along? For days, NASA remained silent. The live feeds, once brimming with data, flickered to black. The official site displayed nothing but a static page. No new statements, no updates, only the soundless pause that follows something too vast for language. Inside those offices behind glass and classified doors, scientists pored over readings that refused to fit into equations. Something had changed. The signal had shifted again, faint but deliberate, as though it were waiting for us to notice the change in its rhythm. In that silence, humanity did what it always does when the unknown arrives: it began to imagine. Theories surfaced in every corner of the digital world. Some claimed it was a cosmic mirror, reflecting back our own broadcasts. Others whispered that 3I Atlas had absorbed everything we'd ever sent into space, our music, our news, our chaos, and was now echoing it back to us in a single, measured tone. But amid all the speculation, one truth stood quietly unchallenged. Something out there had noticed we were here. Michio Kaku returned to the public stage, this time not as a scientist delivering data, but as a philosopher confronting mystery. His voice was steady, softer now, as though the weight of revelation demanded reverence. Perhaps, he said, 3I Atlas isn't just an object. Perhaps it's a mirror. A mirror held up to the cosmos, showing us how little we understand about existence. Every time we stare into the unknown stares back. His words lingered, not as fear, but as an invitation to listen differently, to think differently. He spoke of perspective. We build machines to measure the universe, he said, but sometimes the universe measures us instead. Maybe this is not a warning at all. Maybe it's a reminder that curiosity is the only thing keeping our species alive. Around the world, those who had followed the mystery felt a strange kind of calm settle over them. The panic dissolved, replaced by awe. It was as if the object, in its silence, had taught us something fundamental about ourselves, that wonder is the opposite of fear, and that every unanswered question is a bridge between what we are and what we might become. Astronomers continued to track the visitor as it passed its closest approach to the Sunday. The expected explosion, the disintegration predicted by countless simulations, never came. Instead, the object remained intact, serene, deliberate, unbothered by the furnace it traversed. Its surface temperature remained oddly stable. The pulse continued, unwavering. One scientist compared it to a monk walking through fire, untouched by the flame. One not fours, and one problem. When it emerged from the sun's glare weeks later, it appeared subtly changed. Its brightness dimmed, yet its signal persisted, now resonating at a slightly higher harmonic, as though it had evolved during its passage through light. The pattern it transmitted bore traces of mathematical symmetry, a sequence resembling prime intervals. Not language, not music, but something that felt alive with intention. Kaku, reflecting on this, wrote in his journal, "If the universe speaks in mathematics, then 3I Atlas may be reciting a verse we were never meant to hear so soon." He later told an interviewer, "Maybe it's not trying to communicate. Maybe it's observing how we react. Maybe this is the experiment and we are the variables." That notion changed everything. If the object was indeed artificial, then its purpose might not be conquest or contact, but curiosity. It could be measuring our capacity for understanding, our emotional response to the incomprehensible. And in that possibility lay something deeply human, the awareness that perhaps we are being tested not by gods or invaders, but by the universe itself. As weeks turned to months, public attention waned, as it always does. The headlines faded, the algorithms moved on. Yet among scientists, a quiet obsession remained. The pulse continued to echo faintly in background readings, barely perceptible, but persistent, as if whispering, "Still here." And those who had witnessed its first appearance couldn't quite forget the feeling that, for a brief moment, the cosmos had opened its eyes and looked back. In one of his final lectures on the topic, Michio Kaku stood before an auditorium darkened, except for the pale projection of 3I Atlas on the screen. He didn't speak of fear or revelation, but of humility. "For thousands of years," he said, "humanity has looked up and asked, 'Are we alone?' But what if that was never the right question? What if the real question is, have we been alone in our awareness of being watched?" The audience sat motionless. No applause followed, only silence, the kind that accompanies realization. He continued, his voice lowering into something almost like prayer. "The universe doesn't owe us comfort, it owes us truth. And truth is often silent until we are ready to hear it." Perhaps this was never a warning. Perhaps it was an answer to a question we didn't know we were asking. He looked up at the faint glimmer of the object on the screen. Every generation believes it stands at the center of understanding. Every generation is wrong. 3I Atlas reminds us that even now, with all our telescopes and equations, we are still beginners, children listening for the first time to the voice of the cosmos. Outside, beyond the light of the lecture hall, the night sky stretched endlessly, indifferent yet alive with quiet conversation. Somewhere in that infinite expanse, a solitary traveler moved on, carrying with it the data of an entire species' wonder and fear. It did not slow, it did not fade. It simply continued toward Jupiter, toward the edge of light, toward whatever horizon waits for those who listen long enough. And maybe that is the message after all. That the universe does not speak in words or warnings, but in moments that ask whether we are still capable of awe, whether we still have the courage to face the unknown without trying to own it, whether we can still look up and whisper, "Teach us." So what happens next? Will we reach out or will we turn away? The next move may define our future among the stars. Until then, we watch the sky, and somewhere out there, in the quiet sea of light, 3I Atlas keeps watching us back.